Okay, so this is where I got my data from. I already downloaded it, but it's from the Open Hamilton website, and we're looking at the gender of the population by ward. So let's go ahead and get into it. Here we have our raw data. That's what I'm going to call this tab. And I've just made a copy of it, and I've called that tab clean, because I like to have a copy of the original just in case towards the beginning I make a mistake and I have to start over. So I'm not actually interested in the sex. I'm more interested right now in the age distribution. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete the rows that I don't need. And then I'm going to combine these two and just add them together. So as you can see here, I've just used a simple Excel formula to add the male and the female distribution together. And now I'm going to copy that in and paste it just as the values. So that's all cleaned up now, and I'm ready to create my pivot table. And I do want it on a new worksheet, so I'll put that in there. Move that over here. And I'm going to start sorting my data. So I want the age group in the columns, and I want all the regions in the values. Great, so we have the regions and the values, and now we just need to move this guy into rows, and now we have our pivot chart, a pivot table, and we're going to create a pivot chart from this. But before we do that, I just want to change the name here so that the labels are a little bit more straightforward. So I'm going to call this Hamilton Total, and everything below it I just want to call Ward, and then the number without the underscore. Great, so now that is all nice and clean, and we're going to go ahead and make our chart. And today I want to do a stacked column chart. So I'm just going to move that a little bit further down so we have some space because we have quite a few age groups. So I'm going to expand it and remove some of these unnecessary items and add a title. All right, so here we have our almost final chart. I also adjusted the axes so that it just goes to 100 because they all end there. So it looks a bit cleaner. And now I noticed that there's a bit of a problem with the order of variables. So I'm going to adjust those. 5 to 9 should not be in the middle. We want it to be at the bottom. Okay, so there we have it. And now we can do the really interesting part, which is kind of look at what this chart means. So what I'm curious about is I want to see the total dependency ratio for each of these wards. And the dependency ratio is defined as the number of people who are not your classical working age. So that's going to include all of children under 15, as well as adults over 65, which as people are living longer, who knows, maybe that number will be adjusted in the future, but for now it's still 65 and older. So we're going to go ahead and apply that, and now we can see what this looks like. So we can see in Hamilton overall, maybe 33, 34, probably 34% of residents are not considered working age. And then we can also take a look at which wards are above that and which wards are below that. So, for example, we can see here, Ward 11 has 40% of people who are not in working age. And for a city level, maybe the distribution doesn't matter as much regards to taxation. But if we think about it on the level of that's a bit more large scale, like on a country, you can see how areas with fewer working age people could start to struggle a bit because they have more people who they have to support with their tax base and fewer workers. So one thing that we can kind of do as a bonus now, I'm looking at this and it's making me a bit curious about the age pyramid. So just as a bonus, I'm going to go ahead and make that for Hamilton as a total. And so to do that, we're going to need to go back to our raw data, and this is going to take both the sex variables and the age variables. And for this one, I'm just going to do it for Hamilton overall. If we were really curious and had a lot of time, we could compare all of the wards. But today, we're just going to quickly make it for the city. And here we have our age pyramid. This is how we dealt with the data. We just created all the male percentages. We made them negative so that it would show on the left side of this chart. And we can see here, this is probably the baby boom population. And surprisingly, there's a large chunk of young people, but we might hypothesize that that's because Hamilton is a university town.